It was a tough time in France. Time of revolutions, wars and conservative views in arts also. On the other side, he was smart and creative. He was talented and innovative. He had his own style and he wanted to show it to the world. With his colleagues he established Impressionism. He was Renoir. Pierre-Auguste Renoir. French artist and leading Impressionist painter. Early years. Pierre-Auguste Renoir, commonly known as Auguste Renoir, was a French artist who was a leading painter in the development of the Impressionist style. He was born on February 25, 1841, into a family of artisans. His father, a tailor who had 7 children, moved with his family to Paris about 1845. Renoir demonstrated his gift at an early age. Quickly recognizing his talent, his parents apprenticed him, at age 13, to work in a porcelain factory. His skill and the great pleasure he took in his work, soon convinced him he should study painting in earnest. Having saved a little money, he decided, in 1862, to take evening courses in drawing and anatomy at the École des Beaux-Arts as well as painting lessons at the studio of Charles Gleyre. Renoir felt a great affinity with 3 students who entered the studio a few months later: Alfred Sisley, Claude Monet, and Frédéric Bazille. All 4 students dreamed of an art that was closer to life and free from past traditions. The shared ideals of the 4 young men quickly led to a strong friendship. Circumstances encouraged Renoir to attempt a new freedom and experimentation in his style. The convention of the time was that a painting, even a landscape, had to be executed in the studio. In the spring of 1864, however, Gleyre's 4 students moved temporarily to the forest of Fontainebleau, where they devoted themselves to painting directly from nature. Renoir's early works include Frédéric Bazille, 1867, the painter Sisley and his wife, 1868, and Claude Monet painting in his garden at Argenteuil, 1873. Renoir had his first success at the Salon of 1868 with his painting Lisa with a Parasol, 1867, which depicted Lisa Trahaut, his lover at the time. Although Renoir first started exhibiting paintings at the Paris Salon in 1864, recognition was slow in coming, partly as a result of the turmoil of the Franco-Prussian War. The Salon, or rarely Paris Salon, was the official art exhibition of the Académie des Beaux-Arts in Paris. In 1874, a 10-year friendship with Jules Lecoeur and his family ended, and Renoir lost not only the valuable support gained by the association but also a generous welcome to stay on their property near Fontainebleau and its scenic forest. This loss of a favorite painting location resulted in a distinct change of subjects. Impressionism. After a series of rejections by the Salon juries, he joined forces with Monet, Sisley, Pissarro, and several other artists to mount the first Impressionist exhibition in April 1874, in which Renoir displayed 6 paintings. Although the critical response to the exhibition was largely unfavorable, Renoir's work was comparatively well received. Hoping to secure a livelihood by attracting portrait commissions, Renoir displayed mostly portraits at the second Impressionist exhibition in 1876. He contributed a more diverse range of paintings the next year when the group presented its third exhibition. Renoir did not exhibit in the 4th or 5th Impressionist exhibitions, and instead resumed submitting his works to the Salon. By the end of the 1870s, particularly after the success of his painting Madame Charpentier and Her Children, 1878, at the Salon of 1879, Renoir was a successful and fashionable painter. Rejection of Impressionism. Funded with the money from his commissions, Renoir made several inspirational journeys in the early 1880s. He visited Algeria and Italy and spent time in the south of France. He also painted 3 of his masterworks, Dance in the Country, Dance in the City and Dance at Bougival, around this time. During these years he became convinced that the systematic use of the impressionistic technique was no longer sufficient for him, and that small brushstrokes of contrasting colors, placed side by side, did not allow him to convey the satiny effects of the skin. Later years. Most of his works executed from 1883 to 1884 on are so marked by a new discipline that art historians have grouped them under the title the Ingres period, or the harsh, or dry period. His strong reaction against Impressionism continued until about 1890. During these years he made several trips to southern France, Aix-en-Provence, Marseille, and Martigues. The nature of this sunlit region gave greater encouragement to his separation from Impressionism, which to him was associated with the landscapes of the valley of the Seine. While in southern France, he recovered the instinctive freshness of his art. He painted women at their bath with the same healthful bloom he would give to bouquets of flowers. Renoir had his first attack of rheumatism in 1894, and, as the attacks became more and more frequent, he spent more and more time in southern France, where the climate was better for his health. In 1910 he was no longer able to walk. Although his infirmity became more and more constraining, Renoir never ceased to paint. When his fingers were no longer supple, he continued by binding his paintbrush to his hand. In spite of his misfortune, Renoir's paintings during this period still embodied a cheerful attitude toward life. His themes became more personal and intimate, focusing on portraits of his wife, his children, and Gabrielle, his maid, who often also posed for his nude paintings. His still lifes were composed of flowers and fruits from his own garden, and the landscapes were those that surrounded him. The nudes, especially, reflect the serenity that he found in his work. Examples of this period include The Artist's Family, 1896, and Girl Sleeping, 1897. He attempted to embody his admiration for the female form in sculpture, with the assistance of young Richard Guinot. Since Renoir was no longer able to do sculpture himself, Guinot became, about 1913, the skillful instrument who willingly followed his directions. He yielded before the personality of Renoir and succeeded so well that the works have all the qualities of Renoir's style. The world-renowned Renoir continued to paint until his death. He lived long enough to see one of his works bought by the Louvre in 1919, a tremendous honor for any artist. Besides leaving behind hundreds of works of art, Renoir served as an inspiration to so many other artists. Pierre Bonnard, Henri Matisse and Pablo Picasso are just a few who benefited from Renoir's artistic style and methods. Personal life. His financial situation was appreciably improved and the exposition that was organized for him, in 1892 by the dealer Paul Durand Ruel, was a great success. Renoir's future was assured, and his work of that period reflected his new security and also his confidence in the future. As his fame grew, Renoir began to settle down. He finally married his longtime girlfriend Aline Peirre-Auguste, in 1890. The couple already had a son, Pierre, who was born in 1885. Aline served as a model for many of his works, including Mother Nursing Her Child, 1886. His growing family, with the additions of sons Jean in 1894 and Claude in 1901, also provided inspiration for a number of paintings. About 1899 he sought refuge in the small village of Cognac. In 1907 he settled there permanently, buying the estate of Les Colettes, where he spent the rest of his life. The rheumatism had disfigured his hands, leaving his fingers permanently curled. Renoir also had a stroke in 1910, which left him in a wheelchair. Renoir's wife died in 1915 after having returned from Gérardmer, where she had gone to see their son Jean, who had been seriously wounded in the war, and who would go on to become an important filmmaker. Renoir died in the village of Cognac-sur-Mer, Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, on December 3, 1919. He was buried next to his wife, Aline, who died in 1915, in her hometown of Essoyes, France. Interesting facts. In 1919, Ambroise Vollard, a renowned art dealer, published a book on the life and work of Renoir, in an edition of 1,000 copies. In 1986, Vollard's heirs started reprinting the copperplates, generally, etchings with hand-applied watercolor. These prints are signed by Renoir in the plate and are embossed Vollard in the lower margin. They are not numbered, dated or signed in pencil. A small version of Bal du Moulin de l'Aiglette sold for $78.1 million May 17, 1990 at Sotheby's, New York. Renoir had to take a break from his work in 1870 when he was drafted into the army to serve in France's war against Germany. He was assigned to a cavalry unit, but he soon fell ill with dysentery. Renoir never saw any action during the war, unlike his friend Bazille who was killed that November. While in Naples, Italy, Renoir worked on a portrait of famed composer Richard Wagner.